What is going on, military cash flow family? Today we have another great episode for you. But first, today's Mike is not here. He's in Belize, hanging out with the whole Five Pillars crew. They're doing their, I think it's a yearly retreat right now. So it's just going to be me on the airwaves today with you guys, doing playing the host, the single host. I am a little bit about what's going on with me. One, it's like a Saturday morning and it's raining, so it's kind of sucky weather outside, but we're going to make it a great day today. Still finishing up the refinance process of my first 4-unit, and we're doing a cash out refinance, and you guys got to stay tuned for the video for that one, dude. I'm taking out 6 figures, bro, and it's still going to be able to cash flow I'm still cash flowing like 850 after taking out 6 figures. So, and this has been I've had it for since 2018, the beginning of 2018. So, it's awesome. Just awesome. I can't be more excited about that. Making money on a cash out refinance right now. It's infinite returns because I got all my money out of it. But, that's just a quick preview. I'll be making a longer video on how that went. And then, how it worked with using Mike as my loan officer. So if you don't know, definitely link up with Mike if you're looking to refinance, or if you're looking to buy your first investment property, or you're looking to buy your primary residence anywhere in the North Carolinas. Mike can definitely help out with that. So we got you covered. Yeah, man. So today's guest, we got Travis Hill. He's an awesome dude. Met him at Flip Hacking Live down in Orlando at Bill Allen's event. It was an excellent time. And like I said, you guys are going to start seeing some of the people that I networked with there. They're going to start coming on the show here shortly. So it's really cool. This is an awesome episode, man. So Travis has been in the military for a while. He had a full-time job. 9/11 happened. He felt the call and he's like, hey, I'm going to go join the Marines. But before then, he started investing into single family homes in Las Vegas right before the Great Recession, right? So he was racking up homes in like 2003, 2004, 2005, like around that time period. And then the recession happens. Pretty much lost everything. And then, just like the Phoenix man, rose from the ashes and came back with a vengeance. And now he's crushing it, and he's diversified across a bunch of different type of investments, including land, including turnkey, including syndications, and like just a myriad of other investments, and now private money lending. So it's just absolutely awesome to hear, that journey, his journey. And he gives a lot of actionable steps as to how someone can navigate through something like that, right? And then also navigate through the low period, what it's like starting over, or what it's like starting from the beginning and having to, work those side hustles or work something else to then create more income, to then invest into assets, right? To invest into more assets, right? So as all this happened, as he started having to short sell his homes, and the Great Recession happened, he was like an E4, E3, E4 in the military, dealing with all this at the same time. So it's just a great episode, man. I'm not going to do it any justice by kind of giving you the summary right here. So without further ado, stay tuned. Travis Hill, welcome to the show, man. I'm really, really excited about this interview for you. For those who don't know, we met at Flip Hacking Live. I did a mini interview with Travis, and man, he's just a pretty cool. In the like 10 minutes, well, I guess we got to chill for a little bit longer than 10 minutes, but in the time that we got to hang together, the short period we got to hang together, I felt the bond, man. I felt the bond. Yeah, you're just a really cool dude, man. So please, welcome to the show. And then
thanks, man. Super stoked to be here.
Definitely. And then please let our audience know a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing in real estate.
Okay. My name's Travis Hill, active duty Marine stationed in Camp Pendleton. Going to be 18 years next month, and currently using real estate. My goal with real estate is not to have a W-2 job when I retire. And my portfolio consists of single family homes, commercial multifamily, short-term rentals, syndication, limited partner in syndication, land, in private lending and learning lots of lessons.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So, where did your journey begin? Where did your like journey with not just real estate, but just, I guess, how was your upbringing and how did that lead to where you are at, where you are now?
My upbringing. Wow. You know what? No, I've never been asked that question. That's a great
Well,
question.
I think it's important. Like we try to ask that question every now and again because it's nice it resonates with other people, right? Like, someone might have a different background based off the way they were raised, and some people even use those for limiting beliefs. Like, hey, man, I don't have anybody in my family that ever invested. Well, how am I supposed to do it, right? Well, then we get people like you who maybe that's your story, and it's like, huh, I got it. Maybe that gives me the motivation to then go do the same thing. So off topic, but yeah, let's.
Yeah, no, man, that's solid. That is a great question. So I was raised in a little town called Lehigh, and it's between the reservation and Mesa in Arizona. And we lived on a dirt road, grew up with horses, and my stepdad made $1,000 a month, and we went from rodeo to rodeo, and we kind of lived super simple. And we weren't raised with much, and grew up team roping, grew up chasing barrels as a little kid, and just grew up. We didn't grow up with much and everything. I mean, we had everything that I needed and not much more. And real estate wasn't a thing. It never was talked about. Money was never talked about. The typical, what we all kind of see about, like, don't talk about money, politics, or sex. And you just got a job, went to college. I think I'm the only child to actually get a college degree. Yep, I am. And so it's just a very simple and humble upbringing.
Love it. I love it. So real estate wasn't really talked about. You weren't exposed to it or anything like that. And you just kind of figured your way out or figured your way into it. What was the catalyst, or what was the light switch is like, hey, let me try this real estate thing out?
Oh, that's an even better question. So finished my degree in late 99, was dating a phenomenally hot woman who is now my wife. And she graduated a year after I did and moved to Vegas where her parents retired. And she started doing loans, and she's like, hey, you should check out this real estate thing. And I'm like, all right. So I started buying in Vegas. You have communities, right? And in Vegas, I would buy the second biggest home, and then I would house hack it before it was a thing. So we're talking like 20 years ago. Well, when you have a phase one, right? Well, in every phase release within the community, they raise the price 10 grand, 12 grand, or whatever. And so this is early 2000s, right? Like everything's clicking, everything's going up. So I would wait 6-8 months, get my earnest money back or my initial deposit back for the house, and refinance the property because it goes up again, 40, 50,000. Then I would just turn around and do that again. So my fiance and my girlfriend, then she started buying homes too. So we had like 6 properties. Everything was fantastic. And I thought, like, hey man, we are done. Like, we are set. This is great. And joined the Marine Corps in 2003, go to a pump to Iraq in 06. The Great Recession happens in 08. I pump again to Iraq, and then pump 2 more times to Afghanistan in 2010 and 11. And then by 2011, those homes are gone, and I'm back to 3 kids, 1 on the way, and a government paycheck.
Yeah, man. So, so I want to dig in just a little bit there because, I think that's a interesting story, and we don't really have too many guests on that went through the Great Recession, right, and actually had a portfolio during that time, right? And those can be like huge lessons learned. But before we do that, I want to kind of get into the new development. You were buying in new communities, and you said you were buying in phase one. And what typically happens is after the first set of homes are built, the community starts to increase in value as far as like the prices, right? What was your strategy there? Because I think that still happens now, right?
It does.
This is almost like, it seems like it's kind of like a similar scenario from 2008, the way that home prices are rising. What are your thoughts on that? And like, can you explain how you even thought to do that. Like, hey, let me buy in phase one, and then I'll go back and refinance, get my money out, or what was your strategy there?
Oh, I just realized that that's what builders were doing. You know, your DR Hortons, Beazer, KB, like that's what they would do. That's how they're able to, I guess, probably recoup their money, or probably part of their financials. They would just have a new phase release, and it kind of incentivized people to get in early and fill up the lots early. So it ensured that the construction crews were going to be busy building stuff. And it just seemed to work out. You know, I would house hack each room, and I'd live in the master and rent out the other rooms. I never had to make a payment. We just all split the utilities. So everything was just fantastic. And I'm like, dude, this is a great model, I thought. The lessons I learned from that is that I was so focused on the ants climbing on the bark of my trees that I didn't bother to look around the forest fire that was flaring with, you know, I didn't look at any other financials. I didn't look elsewhere to see, hey, what is the world doing? Why is it so easy for me to get qualified on the next home? Like, I didn't care about any of that. My sole focus was finding the next community is in the earliest phase so that I could refinance the house that I was in to get it and go to the next one.
And I'm assuming you were making money off of those. I don't know if you were doing the refinance, or maybe you were making money both ways through cash flow and the refinance. What did that look like?
Yeah, so I would just, you know, once it got to like 3 or 4 phases, because they were basically going up like 10 grand a phase, I would just refinance out of that, and I would get that 40 grand, everything, you know, whatever that amount was, and then rent out the entire house either to a family or to a bunch of other dudes, and then just do it again. And so I was always on the look. I had an agent that understood what we were wanting to do, and just found them.
So you're just racking up the houses, and then you decided to join the military. So where did that come into play? Because it seems like, I mean, that what you were doing already, it seems like that could have been a full-time job, or at least maybe not a full-time job, but at least could have sustained you, right? So what was it about the military that drew you into it?
9/11.
Okay.
You know, like I was in California, graduated, and was working for a steel fabrication company. 9/11 happened, and then moved to Vegas after that little micro recession in the early 2000s, right? Everything kind of wobbled because I guess the Prince song was in full effect and Y2K was a thing, right?
And some of our listeners are like, what is that?
Yeah, what is Y2K?
I distinctly remember that.
Yeah. And, you know, the whole doom and gloom that was coming with that. So there was a little thing. So I moved to Vegas, followed my fiance after she graduated there. And yeah,
so you had a calling. So you had a calling. You're like, hey, man.
I had a calling. Yeah. I distinctly remember I walked into the recruiter's office, and he's like, hey, how's it going? You want to look at these tiles? And I'm like, no, I'm just here to sign up. He's like, well, don't you want to? And I'm like, look, bro, if you keep trying to sell me, I'm just going to leave. Like, I'm just here to sign up. And he's like, all right. Like, how old are you? And I'm 28. Like, my birthday was 3 weeks before I stood on the yellow footprints, Pearl Harbor Day. And yeah, I just wanted to serve. And I didn't even tell my fiance, like, this is one that's when you know you marry a good woman, right? Or at least you're with one, because we came back to the Renaissance Festival. I don't know if that's still a thing anymore.
Yeah, they still do that.
Okay. I can't date myself too many times in this podcast. And so I said, hey, I've got a question, or I've got to tell you something. She's like, hey, what's up? I said, I joined the Marine Corps. I shipped in 2 weeks. And she's like, trying to pull off the ring, like, what the heck? So it was, it was quite a shock. And I just went and did it. And
that's a serious, you are a true American, man. You're a true American. I felt that one right there, you know? So I told you guys, man, Travis is a good dude, man. Just all around good dude. But so you had a calling. You already had a full-time career. You were already married, and, you know, 9/11 happens, and you feel you have this calling. You're already dipping and dabbling into real estate as well. And then you join the military. Did that change things for you outside of that, you know, I guess that passion and drive that you had to serve for your country? Did that affect anything with your military side? And then also shout out to your wife, man. Obviously amazing woman. She stick with you through the thing. I'm sure like 90% of women out there have been like, nah, you're not going to join the Marines and not tell me.
Yes, just make sure the ring's one size smaller and it's harder to get off.
You can't take that bad boy off. But how did that change? How did that change, if it changed anything at all?
It changed our entire existence. I was working for a civil engineering firm doing all their drafting and all their print work for them. And so I knew, like, I was in tune with where where Vegas was going, where it was growing and everything else. And excuse me, she was a loan officer. So we were making very, very good money. And so we were able to dabble and to invest and, just kind of like use our money. And we're early 20s, right? So like no big deal. When you join the Marine Corps, and I distinctly remember when the recruiter's like, hey, do you want to be an officer because you have your degree? I'm like, well, what's the difference? He's like, well, an officer tells somebody to do it unless the guy does it. I'm like, well, I want to do the shooting. Like, I don't want to tell somebody to do it. He's like, oh, sign right here. So I didn't even go to like an officer recruiter, right? So it went from making 6 digits a year to like 19,000 as a PFC, right? As an E1. And then you're like, oh, I guess we're gonna have to get really good on this budget thing. And I'm gonna go back to ironing my uniforms instead of having them dry cleaned and having my truck washed every week. Like, so there was a big financial adjustment, but also a big mentality, mental mindset shift, because we just weren't in that pay grade anymore.
And then your wife had to adjust to that too, because I'm assuming once you shipped off, I mean, after you came back from boot camp, your wife had to move whatever duty station you were going to, or I'm assuming she moved with you. So I'm assuming that
we did not live under the same house until 2 years later. So I got my first orders to Okinawa. I shipped out, was there a year, and she came out to visit me, compliments of Space A flight. And I came back, got orders to North Carolina that year after being in Okinawa, deployed to Iraq in 2006. And then didn't see her with our newborn, our 2-week-old baby. She flew from Las Vegas, where she was living, to North Carolina.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to Mrs. Hill, man. Shout out to Mrs. Hill, big time. Yeah, I know that had to probably be a pretty rough for her. So, but meanwhile, while all this is going on, you're at Camp Pendleton. You go to North Carolina. You go and deploy. All that time, and you're talking 2006, like literally the forest is burning around, like the analogy you used,
yes.
And around real estate. So you're a PFC, or maybe you're a specialist during that time, or E4 during that time, once you got to North Carolina. But either way, you're a lower enlisted. You definitely took a large pay cut, and now what was a moneymaker is starting to kind of crumble around you. Can you walk us through that? Like what is going on? Like, that's got to be, I don't know. I'm thinking to myself, I'd be like, what the heck, dude? So like, how do you navigate that?
So when I was deployed, and because we didn't have bigger pockets, like none of this stuff existed, right? YouTube, none of this. So it was all just like trial and error. Now, my wife's mother had apartments back when she was growing up. So she was kind of familiar with it. And then obviously being a loan officer, she kind of understood the game, both sides of that. So she was managing the houses, like doing the whole envelopes with money, picking it up in the mailbox, that type of thing. And when she was in North Carolina and Vegas starts getting hit, right? And Vegas and Phoenix were one of the worst hit markets.
I think Vegas was literally number one. I was in Orlando, so we were up there top 5 for sure.
And so you're watching, seriously, like monthly, your house value just going down. And then there's a correlation between the house value, at least for us during the recession, there was a correlation between house value and rent income. And so while our mortgage was still due, rent's going from, 15, 1,800 to 12 to 1,000 to 9 to 8 to 5 to please just stay in the house and pay something, right? And you're watching 50% value of your house just go down, and the mortgage doesn't change. So it was a huge mental and emotional strain on our marriage. And here we are, late 20s, early 30s, second kid on the way. And second kid on the way. And our reserves are gone. We're Dave Ramsey beans and rice in it, trying to figure out how to budget our money on my one paycheck to make these mortgage payments work. And then we started, preparing up for another deployment to Iraq. And just, it was a really tough time, and lots of prayers, lots of communication, lots of arguments, lots of late nights trying to figure out things. And we just kept right on marching, making mission like you're supposed to do.
And then on top of that, still going through just a regular military, regular Marine like lifestyle, which, hey, we got to go to the field. Hey, and you were infantry the entire time, right? Are you still infantry?
No, I'm an engineer. So I was with the wing unit. So yeah,
Okay.
we're our sole purpose is launching and recovering aircraft. And I'm over there trying to hone my craft as an engineer operator and learning how to destroy anything and everything and make anything and everything when it comes to horizontal construction and material handling equipment. So yeah, we were busy.
Yeah. That's tough. That's crazy. So now obviously you're still in real estate now and you're doing great in real estate right now. How did that transition? I mean, because I think most people would experience that, see the strain that it has on their family, and then 2006 was literally just 2008, I guess 2006 to 2008. That recession was just absolutely crazy and devastating for most people. How do you recover from that? How do you recover from that?
You broaden your viewpoint, right? Like I stopped looking at bark and I looked at the forest, and I looked at yield spreads, and I listened to C-SPAN every once in a while when they talked about finances, and then tried to stay awake, right? And you look at stocks and you look at other options and you see what's out there besides the next house or your next thing. And because those are all indicators, right? And in the military, we're all about trying to stay left of the boom. What are your indicators? And then you just stay focused on the indicators while you're trying to grow your portfolio, or you're trying to get into real estate, or whatever it is that you're, trying to do. And you just look for those indicators.
You're diversifying, you're looking at other things. I'm sure the diversification definitely helps as well, because usually all sectors don't just every sector of investing doesn't just crush, or just collapse, right?
Absolutely.
So okay, that makes sense. So what was your first dip back into real estate after? I'm assuming if you had 6 homes and they were like, I mean, were you able to hold on to any of those homes, or like you had to let them
No,
go? So
we
you
let
let
them
them.
all. We short sold all of them, got the 1099 from the taxes and had to pay all that stuff back. So we never went into bankruptcy. We just made it work. That's the responsible thing to do. It probably would have been easy to do bankruptcy and slough all that off, but we had a little bit of integrity in our life and our family, and we knew that we had to do the right thing. So we just did it. And so we sold the last house, got it short sold in 2011, and then didn't pick it back up again until 2018, because it was all just recovery phase, right? Like, hey, now we can actually go and get an In-N-Out burger this month. That's fantastic after 3, 4 years, 5 years, or something like that. So we just learned how to live frugal during that time. And then in 2018 met Dave Pereira from Military to Millionaire, and got introduced to Stu Grazier, and his company was Storehouse 310, and had the opportunity to buy one of his turnkey properties. Did so. And then that was the launch pad to everything else that's been going on right now.
Excellent,
So
man.
here we are.
Dave and Stu are great guys. They've also been on our podcast. I'll have to put a link to the episode. Dave's coming back on here in a couple of weeks, actually.
Nice.
But yeah, so what I want to talk about, because I think your story really resonates with a lot of people, because we're all at a certain point when we first start, right? It all seems extremely complicated, and it all seems like we're looking at our budget, especially like some of our enlisted soldiers, even officers. We have bad money habits, right? And we once we find out about real estate, we're usually not in a position to go ahead and execute. Usually we have to prep a year or two, or like try to figure out what's going on and save money and live frugally, like you're talking about, before we can actually get that first investment. Can you talk to those that are in that situation? Like I was in the same situation. Can you walk us through like what that looks like for you, what your mentality has to be in order to, have that end goal to get back into investing or get into investing, right? How do you navigate through that low point, that point where you're just kind of like, in the trenches trying to dig yourself out?
Right. Totally. You have to, let's say you're a young E1 to E5 living in the barracks by yourself, right? I know in the Marine Corps, if you're trying to be motivated and go out and buy your first property, rental property, and house hack it, they're going to be like, no, the barracks percentage is fine, so you're going to live there. I know the other branches are much more lenient, but we're pretty absolute when it comes to that. I grew up living on the 80-10-10 plan. So I tied 10, I saved 10, and I spent 80. I now tell those young Marines, like, hey, live on like the 70-20-10 plan. Like save 70, invest 70, spend 30, and then tide 10. Because that's going to give you that ability to invest in something, right? Just grow. And then be very Dave Ramsey when it comes to like getting your budget, understanding what you spend, know what you spend, how you spend it, why you spend it, like understand those things, and then set your budget accordingly. Because if you do that, you're going to be like, oh, hey, I'm growing. Max out. If you choose to do the 401k, like the TSP, max it out, like figure out what that is to max it out and go forth and do it. And then just educate yourself, get educated, read, listen, and then don't just take action. You've got to, I live in a community where it's all officers, company grade to field grade, 01 to 06. And I host a monthly meetup right here in the community. And I'll post it on Facebook within the community Facebook page, and 150 people will see it and 3 people will show up. And we in the military does a very poor job about learning how to do a side hustle. They want you to be like, hey man, trade your camis for a suit for Friday to Monday so you can get that contractor job. And then you spent 20 years, 30 years complaining about the bureaucracy and the process, but make sure you write yourself into a contract so you can add yourself as a clog onto that bureaucracy. It baffles me. You've got guys that are trying to are excited to triple dip from the government because I got my pension, then I was a GS worker and I got my pension from that. And now I'm old enough to get Social Security. Well, great. Now you're so broken white haired that you can't even go anywhere and enjoy because you did it. Like that makes no sense to me. Zero. So there's more out there. Educating military personnel that there's more out there than that W-2 paycheck is like the thing that drives me every day. I get 3 or 4 people a day showing up in my office. Hey, sir, I've got a question about this. I heard that you've done a podcast or you're into real estate. Yes. What would you like to know? How can I help you? Because you've got to educate them to know that there's something greater out there than this first and the 15th thing.
Oh my gosh, man. Absolutely love it. That's why we created this whole thing. I'm super passionate about that, obviously, so absolutely love that. And you're 100% right, man. And I like the you mentioned Dave Ramsey a couple times, and just kind of flipping the script and try to invest 20, live on, or invest 70, live on 20, and then tide 10, right?
Yes.
And I think that's key, living below your means, and investing what you can. And then also the education piece, right? You're right. I 100% agree. It's not this. It's the same in the Marines as it is in the Army, right? Like we don't talk about anything as it relates to money, like barely anything, right? We talk more about I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of important things, but we talk more about anti-terrorism training online than we do a soldier's budget, right? Or a soldier's finances, and how to live frugally and invest and create that side hustle, right? I get why they don't teach, create a side hustle. I kind of understand that a little bit, but I mean, I think it's important to at least know and be exposed to it so that you have that option. And this is not the only thing that hey, just like you said, and waiting on the 1st and 15th, and then prepping everything, prepping your entire, however long you stay in the military, prepping that time just to go into a contracted or another W-2 job. I think you're spot on with that. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it.
I think it's also important too to know that, technology and ideas, entrepreneurship in this world, in the digital age that we live in, is huge. Turo, I can rent my car and make a side hustle because I'm gonna go on a deployment. Oh, hey, I'll give somebody 25% if they can manage it, keep it clean, and keep it somebody you trust, right? Okay, cool. If you live in a house out in town, Neighbor is an app that you can rent your parking space to or your garage. If you just have an inkling of initiative, which we should because we're in the military and we're trying to strive to be better, and you want to get promoted, and which means more pay and more responsibility, which you shouldn't shirk from. But just look, and man, the options are amazing. It's out there. If you want to spend extra weekend because, you could do your YouTube channel if you want to be a gamer in the barracks or something, or you want to deliver pizzas on base. Like, there's so many opportunities that you can have that's not just real estate specific, but the real estate will help you accelerate your net worth and your savings. And if you're doing that at 20, man, and like there's people we know in the real estate community that are active duty that are absolutely crushing it. And I'm 46 and they're half my age, and I marvel at what they're doing. Marvel. Like, man, I wish. I thought I was doing it, but no, they're crushing it. What I was doing 20 years ago, dude, that's a one-celled organism in a sea full of whales, man. Like, they're doing amazing things.
Yeah, I don't know. I get hyped up when I see that. Like, we've had several E4 and below come on our podcast, and actually just got a text yesterday. A guy we've been talking to he's a PFC. We've been talking to him for I don't know, probably about 6 months now, and he's went through 2 different times trying to get a duplex, and he just closed on one. I'm like super excited. I'm gonna bring him on a podcast. It's gonna be awesome. But yeah, definitely, I love seeing that. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. I think we talked with several people, right? If you're listening to this, you have a passion and you have a skill that you don't know, right? Or you may or may not know. Whatever that passion and whatever that skill is, once you can figure out how to monetize it, right? That is your side hustle. And it can be a very, very easy side hustle, or it could be something that you just have, just like Travis said, hey man, I got a spare car and I'm about to deploy. All right. Instead of letting it just sit in the parking lot and collect rust and actually get worse when you come back, right? Rent that bad boy out on Turo, man. Give it to your significant other, your brother, or, give it to someone else wherever they're at, and let them put it on Turo, right? It could easily be bringing you side income. Then you take that side income and then you invest into assets. You invest into that real estate, right? So, I mean, that's how you can get some of if you're thinking like, hey, I don't have any extra money after my military, after my my military pay, right, to invest into anything. This is it, man. You have some kind of skill, you have some kind of passion. All you have to do is figure out how to monetize it. And in just a little research, you can figure out how to monetize whatever you want to, man. Like, I think it's awesome. I think it's absolutely awesome.
That's absolutely, yeah, man. 100%. Everything you just said, 100%.
All right. So we talked about we got hyped up there about, seeing Soda do great things, right? But so back to you though. So you kind of talked us through that lull period and what you did, what your mentality was, and how you were able to navigate that, right? So what did the first, actually, I guess you kind of mentioned it, I forgot. So you got with Stu and you got with Dave and you got with 310 it's not Turnkey, it's 310
Storehouse 310.
Storehouse 310, sorry. So you got with Storehouse and Stu, and you got your first turnkey investment. Can you talk us through that? One, what is turnkey for our audience that doesn't know? What does that look like, and what is that process? Shout out to Stu, by the way.
Huge shout out to Stu, because you'll not find another turnkey company that does it like Storehouse does. I'll tell you that right now. Turnkey, it has a wide range of what it means, but the definition is basically you're buying a brand new or a rehabbed house that has a tenant in it or about to have a tenant in it, that has everything in place. It has a property manager in place. It's nice and it's been rehabbed, and you just buy it and it starts operating, and it should be generating net cash flow or a positive cash flow return on your investment, on the money that you put in. It's usually done conventionally, meaning you put your 20-25% down, you get a 30-year conventional loan, very traditional, like what, currently, or what your parents did, or you just buy it out for cash if you have it.
Excellent. So, for those who would you recommend that for a first investment? If you wanted to,
yes, absolutely. I think
who is the type of investor that should get turnkey, in your opinion?
Ooh, yeah. Somebody who maybe doesn't, I think an out-of-state investor can do it if they have the relationship built. I think if they know the company, they've vetted the company, they've vetted the people, because a lot of out-of-state investors get burned on turnkey because they think it's something and maybe they don't have the time to go visit it. The relationship that Stu and David have at Storehouse 310 is top notch. Like, I think they're the only they're the only turnkey company that offers a 1-year warranty after you buy it. So that's like they're basically guaranteeing their work for the first year. Somebody who is hesitant to be a completely active investor. I mean, you're active on the turnkey, but you don't have to go and vet, right? You don't have to go and find your core four, your property manager, your lender, your contractor, and your real estate agent. Like, that's already kind of done for you when you buy a turnkey property.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, like the process of actually, let's say you got turnkey, which literally they give you a product. They even help you with the lender. They'll even use, I'm assuming they have the property manager already in place for you as well. So you're
Right.
literally buying a complete asset where you don't have to do anything but literally collect a paycheck. And obviously, you got to pay for the house, so you don't have to do anything outside of just paying the mortgage and collecting your rental income, right? So for those who don't do turnkey, right, it's a longer process. You're actually, just like Travis talked about, you got to get your core four, right? And then you have to, the hardest piece is actually going through the renovation, right? If there is a renovation involved in dealing with contractors, and some people just don't have the time to do that. We're active duty. Some might just, might have a little bit of cash sitting around and they're like, hey man, I want to invest, but there's no way I have time to manage contractors and, actually look at hundreds of homes, right? See what do the analysis, right? And then the property management side, find a solid property manager. So that's where Stu Grazier, Dave Pereira, and Storehouse 310 comes in and play. And I'll give them a shout out. I completely support their business for sure. So yeah, I mean, I think the turnkey could be a great first investment for someone who just doesn't have the time or doesn't, they're looking to diversify and they don't want to get too deep into learning the intricacies of real estate and how to, get it all up and running. So you did that first turnkey, right? Now, did you continue to do turnkey after that, or what? Because we talked about several different investments on the very beginning. You said you were doing a few different types of investment strategies, or using a different types of investment strategies. After the turnkey, how did you expand into different things, and why? And why did you expand into different strategies?
I expanded because I learned that when you're all in single family homes and something bad happens, you're kind of left, right? So I wanted to diversify, but I didn't know how many options are available in real estate to diversify in. I thought it was just you buy a property and you become a landlord. No, like I stayed on Stu's list because he has a buyer's list, and I stayed on there. I've acquired 3 single family homes with Storehouse, but I also was able to be an equity partner in a land deal in Arizona that my parents, my dad was like, hey, there's this land deal. Oh, okay, it sounds good. So, now I'm a partner in a land in Arizona, which is fantastic. That gives me money every month too.
Just really quick touch on that, because you say land deal, and I'm there's a bunch of different types of land deals too.
Yes.
So I'm curious, like, really take a brief second and just kind of once over the world what that looks like.
Okay, so you're basically you're funding the developer to go out and purchase land and do improvements, whether it's building up utilities, take raw land, converting it into making it more profitable on what you do to it. So the land, it's in the Harquahala Valley. We just got the water rights to it. So now we have water rights that everybody below us can either pay for, or we can sell it. So we have options now because we got the water rights to the property, and then we fund it. Like, we invest money with the developer, and then he gives us a return. And then we started off at 12 acres and we've now rolled it over into 112 acres and just continue to roll forward.
Nice. All right. So we got land, we talked turnkey. Can you talk us through some other options?
Yes. So with Valkyrie Investment Group, Chris and Ashton Laverec, both
had them on
active
too,
duty guys, solid dudes. Name dropping, like when you're just solid people doing good things in the world, name dropping is like, you feel good doing it, right? When I talk about these names and these people, like I feel better just saying their name because they're so awesome.
Yeah.
But Chris and Ashton, they do syndications. So they're buying I think they just closed on a 384 unit apartment complex. Well, no single person, well, that I know, has enough money to buy that. So they do a thing called a syndication. And now you start learning into what passive investing is, vice the turnkey property is more active investing, because you're more like talking to the property manager, you're more involved in making decisions. But the passive, when it comes to being a limited partner, an LP in a syndication, so the 120 unit apartment complex that I'm a limited partner in, an LP, is I invested money with Valkyrie Investment Group. They're the general partners. So they have their group that have found the deal, managing it, rehabbing it, building it back up, increasing its net operating income, and therefore increasing its value. I'm a passive investor in that, meaning that I vetted them. I said, hey, what your product is good. I'm going to give you X amount of money and I get an X amount of return back. So it's a 5-year hold. So for 5 years, I get this percentage every month. And then when they sell it, I get a percentage of the equity that they sell. So they increase in equity $1 million and I'll get a percentage off that. So in a 5-year turn, I get 12% back on my money, and so you're able, and that interest rate changes. And there's a whole lesson and a whole nother 15 podcasts on how syndications work. But basically you're a limited partner. They collect and raise the money. And then you are a passive investor. You have no say in what happens, but you just collect a return on your money for investing with the general partners in that property.
Excellent. Yeah, we've had them both on the podcast as well. The both sides of the Valkyrie group. So definitely go check that episode out. And we talk all about syndication. So that group of good guys, man, too. I definitely give them a shout out. One thing that it's happened a few times on the show, right? Where we're talking to a service member who's been investing and they start name dropping. It's like, yep, we know them. Yep. They know this person. They know this person. You'll start to realize if you're listening to this podcast and you decide to get into real estate, reach out to us, man. Because whatever you're interested in, chances are, because this is such a small and I would say somewhat tight-knit group community. I mean, I just joined the War Room Mastermind, and I think damn near everybody we're talking about right now is in that mastermind group. So just reach out to us, because chances are we know someone that can help you in whatever style of investing that you are interested in, right? So I just think that's pretty cool. You start name dropping. We're kind of a tight community, and we all know each other, man. And nobody's even bashing each other, oh no, you don't want to do that with these guys. Everybody's yeah, man, they're good guys. I mean, it's, I don't know. I think I see it as almost another military branch in its own, right? The real estate, the real estate branch, so
absolutely.
It's pretty cool. But so all right, so we talked about syndication, we talked about land, we talked about the turnkey, and that's what you're investing in right now. And I'm assuming there might be a few others. What are they?
There is. So I just closed. I bought my first commercial multifamily. So in real estate world, if you buy a single family house up to a quadplex or a 4-unit property, that's considered residential. So I bought a 5-unit, which now makes it commercial, which is a whole nother set of rules. And so I bought that in January for $40,000 a unit. And I just sold it. Today's the 6th. I sold it 3 days ago for $70,000 a unit. So super great experience. Learned a ton. Many of them I don't want to repeat, but it was still an amazing learning process and excited to do again. That was in Cleveland, Ohio. Met some amazing people, got a great team there, and I'm continuing to invest in there. And that was just an amazing process. And you talk about doing, it was going to be a buy and hold property. Ended up being kind of a flip, and just learned amazing things. And then learned about private lending. And so I also do private lending. So I am funding.
By chance, was it Alex Brashears?
Say again?
By chance, was it from Alex Brashears? From Alex?
I know of her. Yeah, Dave told me about her Facebook page, and her Facebook page is incredible. Awesome. If you want to know anything about private lending, check out private money lending, I think, or private lending, her Facebook group, Alex Brashears. Yeah, she's awesome. And Yeah, I tell you, I think that as I am diversified in the real estate piece, raising money, helping people, bringing people together with syndications, right? Bringing other military members that have a little nest egg. They're tired of, maybe they're sick of the volatility of crypto, or the stocks they invested in aren't doing good, or maybe they don't like the savings account interest rate they're getting. Being able to bring them opportunities and connecting them with syndications or other opportunities like a flip, or, being private lending for other investors, man, that's so much fun, because you're seeing both people are winning. Both sides are winning. You've got people that want to return on their money. And, when you look at investing, like, well, what's a syndication? Well, typically it's $50,000. And there's not a lot of military people that have $50,000 saved up. Like, okay, well, Hutch and Heath is another great duo that is trying to expand and grow with military members being able to invest in syndications. So there's people that are, they're able to get $25,000 as a minimum investment, and so you have, as a military member, when we talked earlier about, education and learning and figuring out what it is in your, how you want to invest other than waiting for your paycheck and blowing it, is your level of risk, right? Like, what's your risk tolerance? Are you all about like, yeah, man, like let crypto just bounce 99 to -2 every day, and that's fantastic? Or does that scare you to no end, right? And does a 2% change on your Apple stock like freak you out? Like, that's all about your risk tolerance, and then be able to find out what that risk tolerance is so that you can apply that in real estate, because 90% of all millionaires own real estate. Well, that's a pretty good indicator that real estate is how you achieve, maybe not financial freedom, but having an extra, I don't know, what would an extra $1,000 or $2,000 or $500 on the side do to your life to be able to help something? I don't think anybody has ever turned down a bonus from work. And if you can make some decisions, gain a little bit of knowledge. And a quote that I tell my Marines all the time is, there's no comfort in the growth zone and no growth in the comfort zone. And we only learn as humans when we're outside of our comfort zone. And if you can take that and apply a little bit of initiative, which we have, and put forth into how you can maximize your money, man, real estate's a great opportunity to do it. Huge.
Excellent. No growth in the comfort zone and no comfort in the growth zone. I like it. I like it. Yeah, man, this has just been an awesome podcast, man. I really enjoyed my time, man. If there was one piece of advice that you could give to any service member out there, to help them, do what you're doing, because so far you've dipped and dabbled into everything, right? So if there was one, and so you were able to like basically, start over. You went through the worst, the worst recession that we know of so far, right? Went through the worst recession, brought yourself back, and then just crushing it now, and dipped and dabbled in everything. With all that said, all your experience, right? You're 18 years in the military. If you had one piece of advice to give to a service member, what would that be?
The bias for action. Take action. Do it. Don't set your limiting beliefs. Don't let imposter syndrome deter you from taking action.
Excellent. And I love what you mentioned there, like the imposter syndrome, because that's real, man. Like, you get around some awesome people. Like, I talk to some great people all the time, like Travis, and every single person you mentioned, 8 Square Capital, with Hutch and Heath, every single person you mentioned, we've had on the show, right? And these are people that we talk to and network with, right? And all of them are like, I always feel like all of them are like leagues above where I'm at and where I want, they're at kind of like where I want to be. Right. So, imposter syndrome is real. Like, cause even people like me, I feel that sometimes. I walk into a room and like, dang, dude, like these people are crushing it, man. Like, so, yeah, man, don't let the limiting beliefs kill your goals, kill your dreams, man. It's good stuff. If anything, let it motivate you, dude. Cause if everybody that you hear that's doing great things, man, they started off where you are now. They all at some point in their life are where you were at now, right? Don't compare the beginning of your journey to the end or the middle of someone else's. right? And I think that's what kind of leads to that imposter syndrome, that comparing, like, oh man, you know, if you look at Travis right now, and he's done all these different types of deals, but he's been in the game for like 20 years now, right? Like almost 20 years, 15 years now. So, I mean, don't compare yourself to, the middle or the end of Travis's journey when you're at the beginning, dude. Like, so I don't know. I just want to put that out there, but excellent advice. Definitely take action.
That, I think you're spot on. Like that, I wake up every day doing my miracle morning and I write my affirmations. And I have to write my affirmations, because if I don't write my affirmations by 1600 that day, I suck. I'm not good enough. This is the worst thing. I'm going to fail. Right. But no, I write the affirmations. I'm going to be financially free through real estate. I'm going to replace my annual income through cash flow and real estate. I gain financial knowledge. I am worth knowing. I have multiple streams of income. Those are my affirmations I write every single day, because I'm putting that out in the universe. I'm telling the universe, hey man, like I'm going to move you, and this is how I'm going to do it, because you've got to, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And the beautiful thing about real estate, we've touched on all these amazing people. Nobody does real estate alone. Nobody. This is a team effort, and anybody who's successful wants to help you be successful. This is not a one-man show. This is not like only the Pope can read the Bible because they're the only ones that can read Latin. Like, no, this is not it. Like, get out there. It is so good. And there's some amazing people like you that we get to meet.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. How can our listeners get in contact with you?
You can find me on Instagram, Travis Hill 1310.
All right, great. Definitely hit Travis up on IG. We've had him on, I guess, like our IG a couple times, so you can find him there as well. We did a quick mini interview with him as well, and kind of gave some foreshadowing to us bringing him on the podcast in the future. So now it's that time. But yeah, man, this has been a great episode. Thoroughly enjoyed my time.
Likewise.
Yeah, I just appreciate you coming on and sharing some knowledge with us, man.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, super grateful. Appreciate it. I'm so glad I met you at Flip Hacking Live, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And with that, hey, if you're watching this on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and hit a like. We really appreciate those. Leave a comment below if you got a question for Travis. I'm sure he would love to answer that, right? If you're watching this or if you're listening to this on podcast, leave us a review. We appreciate those as well. And if you're on Facebook, man, come join our Facebook group. We got like 3,000 people on there right now, other service members, and we're continually growing, and we're trying to help others invest in just learn whatever they can about real estate. We just talked a lot about, networking and how everybody in this space is kind of tight knit and we kind of know each other. So this is just another example. Come join the Facebook group, and we'll help you out as well. With that, this is Dan Wynn signing off.